this one here.
Hello. So I'm here today with Dr. Delgado, Dr. Nick Delgado, and it's an amazing opportunity to talk about a few things that he will tell us about, some secrets on how is he keeping age um, at bay, and how are you staying healthy and defying aging.
Well, I think first off that all of us come into this world on a journey and we age at different rates.
Yes.
And some of us are at an accelerated rate of aging. Others have learned, I call them secrets, pillars of health. And when we practice those consistently, it makes a dramatic difference in how we feel, how we look, and essentially how other people view us, is my opinion.
That is very true. People age differently. And I think there are some factors, whether it's epigenetic factors, and maybe if you can give us some practical tips.
Absolutely. I think you're only as strong as your weakest link. So some people, let's say, for example, they're really consistent with exercise. They're great about it. They do yoga, they do strength training, they do some flow training. But then you get to their diet and they think they're following a good diet. And I have a much different opinion about what a healthy diet is. Or they're aware at the nutrient level. Maybe they've looked under the microscope and they see their blood and they go, hey, I need to do something about it. And maybe sometimes it's that test that motivates them to start taking their supplements consistently. Or maybe they're really not doing well with their sleep. And sleep is so important to good health and detoxification. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention peptides and bioidentical hormones, because as we age, one of our secret techniques that all the celebrities know about is to how to slow the aging process, and what personally designed for you, what peptides, what hormones, how to balance them, 24 urine tests, blood tests, saliva tests, all these things we gather together, maybe using AI, and we put together a program for people. And then last but not least, probably the most important is love and connection. I think that's most important.
Absolutely. And spirituality. So what about, if you can elaborate a little bit on what's your thoughts on a healthy diet? I know you've been in bodybuilding, and maybe some tips on how to keep your body still building muscles, keeping your lean body mass and your bones healthy. Any tips on that?
Yes, I have some very important tips. And it may not be what your typical trainer or nutritionist or even your doctor tells you, but I'm basing this on 45 years, going on actually 46, 47 years of clinically looking under a microscope, knowing people's lifestyle, knowing what they eat, reading the journals, the studies, the research. And so I bring it back to, some people would call it a 10% fat, omega rich from the origin, that like walnuts, nuts, seeds, avocados, real food, coconut. And so when you look at those, and then you look at about 10 to 15% of essential fatty acids, and about 10% protein, and about 70% of starch resistant complex carbohydrates, not simple sugars that break down quickly. These are whole natural foods that the body gets a rich amount of fiber. That's very detoxifying, very nutrient selection. In fact, the fiber tends to soak up toxins and chemicals and pulls it out of the digestive tract. And plus this high fiber, and I'm going to say over 80 to 100 grams of fiber a day, that will help to correct the microbiome.
Yes.
The microbiome needs a lot of fiber, and it generates molecular hydrogen in the gut. And so it's very important. People are nowhere near getting enough fiber, and they're all worried about, you're eating too much sugar, you're eating too much protein, you're eating too much fat. But where's your fiber? If you eat your fiber, you're inherently getting more of rich, whole, natural foods as nature intended.
I agree. It's all about the balance, and fiber is so important for our gut. How about sleep? What do you think is a good time for a person who is looking for healthy sleep?
I think it's really important, Dr. Bar, and that is to understand we have circadian rhythms.
Yes.
So some people work late shifts, they stay up late, they're looking at their phone screen at night. And one way to adjust your circadian rhythm is when the sun is rising, set it to a point where you get outdoors when the sun's rising and be there for 15 minutes or so, and let that sun kind of go into and reach the pineal gland and reset that circadian rhythm. And at sunset, that's the other time to go outdoors, do your exercise outdoors. I love to run to the beach, where we talked about Inspiration Point and the beautiful area of Lookout Point, and your Corona del Mar, you're looking out at the beach and the sun setting. It's such an important thing because that will help adjust that morning night cycle. It's very important.
Grounding, if you're going to go to the beach, it's good to be grounded. Can you tell us about grounding?
Oh, I go barefoot. I go barefoot at the beach, right in the grass area, not on the cement. I get over to the grassy or the sand area. Yep. And
the water. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
And what is the benefits of grounding? What do you
think of the ground as going to the ultimate antioxidant. It helps to reduce inflammation. It's kind of this generation of energy coming up from the center of the planet, much like the sun generates this energy, but we don't realize how important grounding is. And this helps to align the body and reduce what's called oxidative stress and free radical damage. We can see oxidative stress under a microscope. We can see the holes in the blood. And when we see that, we want to get rid of that oxidative stress and reduce that. And that's where we'll use something like molecular hydrogen. We'll do grounding. We'll make sure that we take molecular hydrogen rich water and nitric oxide. So we'll use something that has a lot of plant nitrates, particularly the beets, organic beets. That's really important.
Beets are amazing for that, and it's natural. So grounding is something that we can do on a daily basis, and it's free. All what you're telling us is really so amazing and free, and we can all experience. How about peptides? Any recommendations on some peptides for muscle building?
Gosh, I love peptides. You know, I've told people this and they find it hard to believe. I said, look, I've been utilizing oral and injectable peptides for almost 45 years. I met the early versions of the Australians, the Russians, and because I was a speaker around the world educating people, I realized that peptides would play a big role. Full disclosure, my first use of peptides had to do with the search of melanocyte 2, melanotan and 2. And honestly, you know, like most men, as we age, we're a little concerned about erectile function and sexual function. And the one funny thing was, I loved using it, but I remember my doctor, who's a chiropractor, he said, I came in one day and he said, Dr. Nick, come over to the mirror. And I'm like, why? And he says, just come over here, come look. And he says, look in the mirror. And I look in the mirror and I go, what? He says, do you see how tan you are? You're like dark. You change colors. I said, yeah, I'm using a peptide that, you know, it stimulates some melanocytes, but it also is excellent for erectile function, sexual function. And so later I transitioned to PT-141 because it doesn't have as much of a tanning. It gives you a nice tan, but not that dark, too dark of a look. So PT-141 is one of my favorites. I love to use testosterone because it stimulates the release of human growth hormone. I take it in the middle of the night. If I wake up and my mind's too busy, I'm like, oh, I need more sleep. I've only slept 4 hours. I time my sleep at night and I wear goggles over my eyes so it's dark. And
you have to have the darkness to sleep on.
Right. And so I'll inject the testosterone in the middle of the night, not every night, but a lot of times, sometimes at bedtime I will, but in the middle of the night, and I'll go back and get another 2 to 4 hours of deep quality sleep.
REM,
really nice.
Dreaming. Yeah. That's where growth hormone comes out. And then how about BPC-157?
Oh yeah. That's a really important body protection composition. And this is something that it's a gut hormone, but it turns out it has this overall healing ability. And it's really great because we're always suffering injuries. I'm an athlete. I still compete. I still do things with athletics and weightlifting. And so when I get an injury, I use it as a protective factor. I'm always trying to prevent injuries. And if I do get an injury, I notice I overcome it quicker using BPC-157 with TB4. Some will say the element of TB-500. They're kind of variations of each other, the thymosin alpha beta, right?
Yes. And BPC is also neuroprotective. It's great for inflammation. So it's amazing. Healing peptide. That's amazing. Any other tips that you can have maybe for healthy, long life that is amazing?
Yeah, I think that it's important to appreciate that because we are active human creatures, you should not like get hooked on one particular peptide. You should cycle them. So I'll switch over to the use of CJC 1295. Sometimes I'll use Semerelin with GHRP2, GHRP6. And I noticed with the Semrel and GHRP2, GHRP6, I get the most muscular, full look to my muscles. My muscles that just, I work out, not a lot. People think, God, you must work out all the time. I don't spend 2 hours in the gym. I work out for about 12 minutes of a high intensity workout.
Yes.
And then, maybe on the weekend, I'll go to the beach and I'll take my dumbbells or I'll go swimming and I'll work out at the beach because I'll spend an hour or two, there because I'm swimming, I'm working out, I'm jumping, I'm doing yoga. So I think fitness is critical. Most people, they just can't find the time to work out. So when I tell them, look, it only takes 12 minutes, 3 days a week. Maybe if you're really training for high intensity, you could do it 5 days a week and you'll develop as good a physique as if you spent 2 hours in the gym. I absolutely guarantee it.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time and great advice from Dr. Delgado. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you.